Hey guys, it's Kris Jones for episode 49 of Ask Me Anything. As I mentioned in video 48, I am giving you guys a step-by-step blueprint to raise venture capital. I mentioned in the previous video that you're not actually in a venture capital raising process if you simply meet with one investor. You need to literally dedicate no less than the next 90 days of your life to strategically putting together a process whereas you meet with, take as many first-time meetings as possible, and you go through a process that at the end of it, 90 days later, you're actually looking at a series of term sheets and you're making a decision about who's the best fit for your company. I know that sounds idealistic. I'm not suggesting that it's super easy to do, but having been on the positive side of that multiple times to the tune of $35+ million, I could tell you that going through the process is painful. And I truly mean painful as it could be. Expect to get a tremendous amount of rejection on a level that you may have never experienced before. But the process, if done correctly, will lead you to an outcome where you have more than one opportunity, hopefully, to raise the necessary capital. I thought what I would do real quick is just give you a quick recap of video 48, and then I'm going to dive into the topic of today's AMA, which is on the use of proceeds, which is once you understand how important that is, and once you get your hands around it, and fill in the blanks as it relates to how much money you need to raise and what you're going to use that money for. You go into a pitch meeting already knowing that, and I'm going to help you get there by the end of today's video. It's a game changer. It will exponentially increase the likelihood that you end up raising capital. Quick recap though, because I think this is important. I'm going to give you a recap, but if you haven't seen video 48, check it out on my YouTube channel. And make sure you have a tablet and a pen because you're going to want to take notes. This is one of those sort of things where this is not passive learning here. This is a process and you need to learn the steps that I've gone through to successfully raise capital. So in the previous video, we talked about the idea of putting together that winning pitch. It's about you don't want to have more than, say, 12 to 15 slides. Anything more than that, and you're never going to have a positive outcome in a meeting. You'll get interrupted. You've got about, honestly, 10 to 15 minutes of a 30-minute meeting to capture their attention. And I've done this. I've refined this process, and here's what you need. Slide 1, you want to chat about your mission. This should be in 30 words or less. Why are you doing the business? 2, talk about your team. I like to front load right at the beginning of the presentation why you and your team members are the people to solve whatever problem it is that you're trying to solve. 3 is the problem statement. A lot of times when I meet with prospective entrepreneurs or just when I'm out and about educating myself, I find that there isn't a clear statement about what problem you're solving. Honestly, if you're not solving a problem, you probably won't get through this process successfully. So you really need to think about this, and put together a problem statement in slide 3. Slide 4 is the why now, right? So what trends are occurring that bring you to this moment where your business, the timing of it is appropriate to raise capital now, so that you could demonstrate product market fit, proof of concept, and scale the business. Slide 5 is market opportunity. If you guys have watched this series, you know that I encourage you to fall in love with numbers, like totally nerd out about the financial part of your business. When I talk about balance sheets, cash flow statements, and profit and loss statements, I tell you guys it's not about the reporting side of it. It's about the predictive nature of these documents. The market opportunity is basically one slide on what the total addressable market opportunity is regarding your business. I go into this in much greater detail in video 48, so I encourage you to go back to that. Next, and this one most of you have probably gotten wrong in the past. I'm giving you one slide and one slide only to describe your product or your technology. You think that when you go into a VC pitch that you're going to sit there giving them a demo for 60 minutes. Honestly, in many respects, they don't care. You'll hook them once you clearly articulate that there's a problem and you have a solution. They don't care what the product looks like. They're going to assume it's an MVP, that it needs a lot of TLC, tender love and care. You know, you're going to have time to perfect it. Is there a problem? Can you solve it? How big is the market? Those are more important than you thinking you need to go in and show them all the bells and whistles and all the features and all of that. It's just not true. That's not how you raise venture capital. And by the way, I was prepping you on the first meeting. In future meetings, you may need to go underneath the hood, but not in the first pitch. Slide 7, product market fit. If you have any traction, if you've demonstrated product market fit, this would be a good slide to be braggadocious about it. But you need not have any traction to raise venture capital. I recently raised $1.5 million on a product that didn't even exist yet. Wasn't easy, makes it more difficult, but the product market fit, if you don't have traction, what you do is you share some predictive milestones where you think you could be in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months in terms of installs, revenue, whatever other KPIs. Slide 8, I want you to chat about competition. Who would you like to kill? In other words, who is that company that's doing something similar to what you're doing that if you just remove them from the equation, you could steal all their market share? Slide 9 is your GTM strategy, your go-to-market strategy. What growth tactics are you going to use to grow your business? What viral coefficients and components have you built into your product or service to help it grow naturally? Slide 10 is the financial operating plan. This is not huge spreadsheets of financials. It's basically, here's how we're going to make money. And if you don't have a plan yet, that's okay. But this would be the slide to talk about what your strategy is to eventually commercialize or monetize. Slide 11 is the final slide in my deck, and it's the ask. I am raising $1.5 million at a $4.5 million valuation, period. Now, today's AMA is about how you get to that valuation and how you decide how much you need to raise. That, my friends, is the use of proceeds. See, one of the most popular questions I get as an investor, and one of the areas that you get most confused as an entrepreneur, trust me, I've been there, is what's the value of my company? Well, the value of your company, if you're raising venture capital, is a function of how much you need to achieve a milestone. That milestone, and just trust me on this, is 18 to 24 months from now. So whatever that milestone is, I am going to have 1 million installs and I'm going to generate $3 million in revenue. I care little about that for the purposes of this video, but what I care about is how much money you need to hit that milestone. That is the use of proceeds, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the big buckets of expenses that you're going to encounter in your first 24 months that you're going to want to raise money for. Let's see. So here they are. This is not a one-size-fits-all, but this is a one-size-fits-most. And if you're a tech business, like most of the businesses that I found or invest in, this one will fit you almost like a glove. So the first bucket of expenses that you're going to want to calculate as an expense over the next 24 months. First one is mobile and app development, right? You're either going to insource this, meaning you're going to hire mobile web app developers, or you're going to outsource this. The investors care probably much less about whatever strategic whatever your strategic decision you make regarding insourcing or outsourcing, but they want to see that you've carefully thought through this expense. So calculate it. How many people are you going to need in the first 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months? You're going to need a staff ramp up, and there's going to be an expense that is associated with that. For one of my most recent venture capital raises, I estimated that mobile and web development would cost my startup about $750,000 over the first 24 or so months. So just do the math on that. You're going to be looking at a budget of between $30,000 and $40,000 a month in your use of proceeds allocated towards that. Investor wants to see that because it demonstrates that you've calculated and predicted the type of money resources that you'll need to fulfill that bucket. The second area is growth or sales and marketing. I like the word growth. Sales and marketing sometimes suggests that you're trying to shove something down someone's throat, whereas growth is to get people who love your product to tell other people that would love your product how lovable your product is. So it's a little bit of a different way of thinking, but anyway, that second bucket is sales and marketing. If you're going to hire a head of sales or a team of salespeople over the first 24 months, when are you going to hire them and how much are they going to cost? If you are going to, which you're going to need, an ad budget, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, paid installs, whatever it might be, what is that ramp up going to look like? How much do you intend to spend per month? By the way, guys, this all is driven by your outcome, which is your 24-month milestones, right? So that'll help you. If you're predicting 1 million installs, you better have a plan through sales and marketing, to get there. So you may use tactics outside of digital marketing, direct mail. You might do email marketing, radio, newspapers, or whatever sales strategy it might be. During this process of identifying your use of proceeds, it should be exhaustive. And it should be, you should be very meticulous, in your details. Don't guess. You don't have to guess. Reach out to others who've walked in these footsteps and get a real good, as precise as possible. It doesn't have to be super accurate. If your use of proceeds kicks ass, like it's just, you could defend it very easily, you won't even get any questions about it. In fact, if anything, you'll get a compliment or compliments on it. One of my most recent raises, when we raised $4.5 million for French Girls, I went through that whole process with Adam and Andrew from French Girls. And I'll tell you what, we were raising money from tier A venture capitalists, and we had a kick-ass use of proceeds. And honestly, if anything, we got compliments. People weren't saying, well, how much are you going to pay your mobile app developers? Or how come you're only spending, you've only allocated $5,000 a month to Facebook ads? Guys, that's not what the VCs are there to do. They're there to see if you know what you're doing and if you're going to execute on as much money as they give you. Anyway, sales and marketing. So in my most recent raise, I requested, which might be a little light, by the way, but neither here nor there, $250,000 over the next 18 to 24 months for sales and marketing. I won't get into it, but the reason why I said that that's light is I intend to spend more than that, but the more than that will be what I call performance marketing. So 1,000 in, 1,000 or more out, and that would be from the revenue that I generate from the company that I raised the capital for. But for the use of proceeds, because you're going to go in asking for this money, all you have to do is ask them for the money you need that you're going to use to hit your milestones. So first bucket, mobile web app development. Second bucket, sales and marketing. Here's the third bucket, operating expenses, right? So if you haven't run a business before, this one might be a little bit of guessing, but I'll just give you a little bit of idea. You're going to need a strong financial management component of your business. This is not an area that you chintz on. This is an area where the sooner you could get to having a controller or a CFO helping you build your company, probably the more appealing it's going to be to a prospective investor. HR. I'm not suggesting you hire an HR director right out of the gate. That would be silly and wouldn't really reflect well on you, especially if you're early stage, like most of the companies that I'm biased towards investing in. But you need to think about the HR component. You may need to hire third parties to help you recruit talent. There is an expense there that you want to identify. Office manager, office management, administrative functions, such as like beyond office management, you're going to want procurement for like IT stuff. This is your operating expenses are basically what investment are you going to need to make over the next 24 months to operate the company so that you as the founder or founders don't have to do it all yourself, because that's not going to reflect well on you. And by the way, this use of proceeds is not an opportunity to bootstrap, right? You've bootstrapped up to this point of getting the ability to sit in front of venture capitalists and ask them for enough money to float you over the next 24 months so you could hit your milestones. So it's okay to be conservative, but honestly, this is not the best case example where you should be super conservative. You should be realistic and you should be optimistic, but don't be too conservative. Okay. So in my most recent successful raise, which just happened over the last 60 days, I asked for $350,000 for my operational expenses bucket. That's over the next 18 to 24 months. All right, fourth bucket, professional services. Lawyers, outsourced accountants, who's going to count the beans before you have a controller? Who's going to help you with taxes? These outsourced types of roles, you're not going to be hiring an attorney on staff out of the gate in the first 24 months. That would be crazy. But you are going to have to retain an attorney. This is critical because all of your operating documents and all of your legal documents are going to need to be, all the T's are going to need to be crossed and the I's need to be dotted. My most recent raise, I allocated $100,000 of the $1.5 million that we raised towards professional services. All right, finally, and I know you guys are going to be like, Kris, you missed all these buckets. I'm telling you, if you fill these buckets, you're going to be in really good shape with the number that you're going to be asking for. The fifth one is what we call hardware and furnishings. It's a little bit of a catch-all, but you're going to be opening an office, you're going to need furniture, you're going to need computers, you're going to need, depending on the type of your business, you're going to need to allocate some coin towards servers and web hosting, and preferably on a cost-effective solution like AWS. But you're going to need to allocate resources towards hardware and furnishings. I just did tell you not to bootstrap. By the way, when it comes to like furnishing your office and stuff like that, you need not like have a plan to open an office on Madison Avenue, New York City, or in SoMo in south of Market in San Francisco. You could. French Girls did. French Girls is there in SoMo. But my point here is that you don't want to over allocate towards this bucket. And if you do, skew towards making sure that your product is scalable as more users come in. I only asked for $50,000 in my use of proceeds over the 24 months for this particular expense. So those are the 5 buckets. Now what? Okay, I'm assuming that you did all of the necessary, exhaustive, meticulous research to fill in those buckets. You don't have to show the VCs all of your work, but what you want to do is you want to do sub-buckets and then a number. So calculate all of the numbers. Guess what? Now you know how much money you need to raise, right? I promised you that I would give you the secret to how much your valuation is. So check this out. So, statistically speaking, let's just say your raise is $2 million. You need $2 million to hit your milestones in 24 months. Each round of financing, a seed round, a super seed round, a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, and before that initial seed, maybe you did a friend and family. But generally speaking, statistically speaking actually, each round of financing is going to cost you between 20 and 30% of the equity of your company. So if you're raising $2 million, and I'm suggesting it's going to cost you about 30% of the company, your company is worth between $6 and $7 million. That's it. How do you defend it? You defend it based on the use of proceeds. No venture capitalist, zero, literally, is going to expect you to come in and ask for $2 million and give them 70% of your company. It's just not how it works. It is a function of your use of proceeds. And on average, it's going to cost you 20 to 30% of your total equity for that raise. So there you go. That gives you a quick and dirty and easily defendable way of coming up with a valuation. And isn't that interesting that you came up with your valuation based on how much you need to raise over the next 18 to 24 months to hit your milestones? Guys, that's how you do it successfully. I could tell you, having raised capital over all these years, I can't recall a conversation where someone said, Kris, get out of the room. You think you're worth more than you are. That's not how it works. That's not what you need to defend. What you need to defend is your use of proceeds, how much coin you need to get to where you want to go. So that, my friends, I'm hoping that this video is like, one of those syndicated old school TV shows like MASH or like Laverne and Shirley, where people could benefit from the specific blueprint instruction that I'm sharing with you right now for many years to come to help you guys raise capital. This isn't even an opinion, guys. This is through documented experience and fact that this process it doesn't guarantee that you could raise capital, because you still need to have a big problem in a big market that you could solve. But if you guys follow this process, I promise you, you'll have a much greater likelihood of coming out successful and raising venture capital resources. Guys, feel free to post questions below. This was video 49. Video 50. You guys know every 10 videos, I love to kind of go outside of the format. Well, I intend to do that. I intend to make a big announcement in video 50. So please stay tuned. Really appreciate your time, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.